So my name is Whitney, Amaya. My gender pronouns are she, hers, and I'm from West Long Beach, and I'm with the Long Beach, South Bay, East Yard membership. I first got involved with East Yard in 2015. I had a friend who had been invited me to community meetings that were happening in my neighborhood for like a year. But I was busy with college. And so once I graduated, I started coming around to the monthly meetings at a church that was literally like a few blocks down from my house. And it was cool because I was learning a lot about the different like issues that are going on in my neighborhood. And honestly, it was like everything I wish I would have talked about in college because I went to college to learn about like geography and environmental studies, but it was not local to like my community. And so it was cool going to the monthly meetings to learn more and also connect with other community members and figuring out like what can we do to resolve some of those issues that are affecting us. So I decided to participate in the Marina Pando Social Justice Research Collaborative because I wanted to learn more about the different issues that are going on in my neighborhood, particularly oil and gas, because we have several refineries right next to where I live and right next to where, we go to parks and just have fun and go to school and all of that. When I was doing the project with Marina Pando, I was working with my friend Julius, who introduced me to East Yard, and also with my Long Beach organizer, Jan Victor Andasan. As a group, we decided to focus on what we don't see from the oil and gas infrastructure. So we always see the refineries and the smokestacks, but we were like, well, how does the oil go to and from the facility? So we've seen like when we're walking or biking on the LA River, like very huge pipelines, but then it kind of like disappears. And so part of what we wanted to look into was where do those pipelines go? And so through the research, we found through the National Pipeline Mapping System that a lot of those pipelines are running underneath our community, underneath our homes, our schools, our parks. And when we looked at like the broader map of where these pipelines are in the city of Long Beach, it's primarily in West Long Beach and North Long Beach, which are communities that are predominantly communities of color, low-income neighborhoods. It's unfair, it's environmental racism that this infrastructure is located in our communities. And so what we wanted to do was also see like how to see where these pipelines are. And so it was also gauging awareness from our community members, like, does our community know that pipelines are running underneath our communities, our neighborhoods, and how they felt about that. So some of the research that we did as a group, we found that one way to identify if there's a pipeline in your neighborhood, pipelines are supposed to have pipeline markers that are visible. They're usually like yellow with some language around who owns the pipeline, emergency phone number to call. And honestly, once we learned that, it's kind of like all of these pipeline markers are just visible to the eye. And so we went bike riding along the pipelines that we identified from the National Pipeline Mapping System to make sure that along all of these pipelines, there are pipeline markers to pretty much let community know that those pipelines are there. And what we found was that there were pipeline markers that were visible, but for some of them, it was literally just spray painted markings on the ground that identified like how wide the pipeline is, the company, but it didn't have like that emergency phone number that you're supposed to call in case of an emergency. When we presented our findings and our research to the community, a lot of community members were surprised. We had parents, we had siblings who didn't know that there was a pipeline literally running through the playground of an elementary school in our neighborhood. And it was anger and frustration because this is a potential source of like an explosion or leaks that our children are being exposed to. Ultimately led to a group of us called the Oil and Gas Team, which included myself, Julius, Jan Victor, and some of the other community members, to create a bike toxic tour where we identified some of the different areas that have pipelines running through, but also some of the other oil and gas infrastructure. But in addition to that is also the beautiful things that we see in our community, right? The community solutions. And so part of that toxic tour also highlighted some of our community gardens. I would highly encourage for folks to support the Marina Pando Social Justice Research Collaborative because it's a super important program. It's a program where, community members can come together and talk about the issues and do further research on the issues that are affecting our neighborhoods and our communities without having someone from the outside coming and determining what it is that we need or what it is that is going to resolve those issues. But it's also very important because it's a space where our stories and our experiences are validated, and the importance of that coming through. Because sometimes, when we go to agency meetings, when we go to city council meetings, they make it seem like we're community members. We don't know what we're talking about. But the reality is that we're the ones living here. And so our stories are what matters most. And I feel like that's something that I will always take with me from this program, and hope that other community members in our communities can walk away with as well.